Welcome to another episode of Peep Pod. Usually when we talk about how a global mega hit is made, we picture this like massive corporate machine.
Oh yeah, like a boardroom full of executives.
Exactly. High-rise buildings, millions of dollars in marketing budgets, meticulous focus groups, and, well, teams of seasoned producers who are basically scientifically engineering an inescapable hook.
Right, because the traditional music industry playbook it's notoriously calculated. I mean, it requires vast resources, and it takes months, sometimes years, to execute a rollout that actually, blankets the culture.
It's a whole science.
Mm-hmm.
But then you encounter a situation that just completely shatters that entire playbook. So I want you to picture this scenario.
Okay.
A 17-year-old girl is sitting alone in her suburban bedroom. She's going through this devastating, confusing breakup. And she takes out her phone, records a casual, entirely unpolished snippet of herself playing a really sad, simple song on her piano, and just posts it on Instagram.
It is, for all intents and purposes, a literal diary entry set to chords.
Literally. And that is the central, mind-boggling tension of our deep dive today. How does that raw, emotional voice memo accidentally ignite an inescapable cultural phenomenon?
Yeah, a phenomenon that just a few months later completely shatters global streaming records.
Right, and fundamentally redefines the modern power ballad for an entirely new generation. And this is the craziest part. Eventually leads to covers by everyone, from Rick Astley to a 70-something post-punk legend like David Byrne.
It's wild. We are, of course, talking about the story of Olivia Rodrigo's 2021 debut single, Driver's License. And, to really understand the sheer velocity of this song's success, we've pulled together this really fascinating stack of sources for you today.
Yeah, we've got a lot of good stuff.
We do. We're pulling from deep dive reporting in the New York Times, interviews from Vogue, historical rankings from Rolling Stone, and even actual academic linguistic analyses of the song's lyrics.
So I want to make it clear to you listening right now, our mission today isn't just like a nostalgic look back at a pop song. This is really a story about a massive shift in how hits are made. We're exploring how a minimalist bedroom pop track basically took over the world and became a defining cultural touchstone of the 2020s.
Absolutely. But to set the stage, we really need to look at the essential context of where Olivia Rodrigo was positioned right before January 2021.
Right, the whole Disney background.
Exactly. For fans of the artist, this is super familiar territory, but for the broader public, I think it's crucial to remember she was working primarily within the Disney machine. She was starring in that Disney Plus mockumentary High School Musical, the series.
Which is a mouthful of a title.
Right?
But, I mean, she certainly had musical chops. She had already written the song for that show called All I Want, which it moved over 500,000 units in the U.S. It was certified gold.
Which is huge for a TV show track.
Right. So she signs with Geffen Records, which is an Interscope subsidiary, to release a debut EP. But releasing a solo debut completely outside the safety of that Disney ecosystem is, well, it's a really perilous move.
Oh, definitely.
I was into it like baseball. She was this highly rated minor league prospect stepping up to the major leagues for her very first at-bat. Everyone in the stadium is just, hoping she hits a solid single, maybe a double.
Yeah, just get on base.
Exactly. But instead, she swings, hits a grand slam, and the ball literally shatters the stadium scoreboard. I mean, no one, not even her label, was prepared for the impact.
No, they couldn't have been. And a hit of this magnitude doesn't just happen by accident, even if it feels sudden. Instead of just, marveling at the fact that it was a hit, the sources really force us to look at the architecture of the track itself to understand why it resonated so deeply.
So let's get into the music.
Yeah, musically, Rodrigo co-wrote and produced the song with Dan Nigro, and the technical specs are deceptively complex.
They really are. Let's break those specs down, because the anatomy of this mega hit is fascinating. For a song that feels so deeply sad, it actually has a surprisingly fast tempo. It's 144 beats per minute.
Which is, that tempo is crucial. 144 BPM is almost a dance tempo.
Right, which seems counterintuitive.
It does, but it creates this sense of forward momentum.
Yeah.
Because grief and heartbreak aren't always just, lying in bed crying. Sometimes they're the frantic, racing heartbeat of panic.
Oh, that's such a good point.
And the fast tempo physically mimics the sensation of driving a car down an empty street, which perfectly mirrors the core lyrical theme. Plus, it's written in the key of B-flat major, and vocally, Rodrigo's performance is incredibly dynamic. It spans from a low G3 to a high F5.
And For those of you who might not read sheet music, standing from a G3 to an F5 means she is taking the listener on a massive journey.
Yeah, it's huge.
She starts in this low, almost spoken word whisper, and by the end of the song, she's hitting a soaring, belted high note that spans nearly 2 full octaves. You can actually feel the physical exertion of her voice.
You really do. And along with that vocal range, Negro's production utilizes a double-time kick drum and syncopated hand claps on the second verse.
Wait, explain syncopation for us really quick.
Sure, so syncopation basically means they are placing the rhythmic emphasis on the offbeat. It actively denies the listener's brain the satisfaction of a predictable rhythm, which creates this, subtle psychological tension.
So you feel a little unsettled.
Exactly. You feel slightly off balance, just like someone going through a sudden breakup.
That is brilliant. And the production style is just the absolute epitome of bedroom pop mixed with these alt pop and indie rock elements. And you hear that intimacy right from the very first second of the track.
Yeah, the car sounds.
Right. It starts with the literal sound of her mother's car engine starting up, followed by that rhythmic, slightly annoying door jar chime.
And that use of Foley art, incorporating real-world sounds into a musical composition, it does something very specific to the human brain. It uses spatial audio to trick your amygdala into feeling presence.
Wow, tricking your amygdala.
Yeah, it immediately grounds the listener in her reality. You aren't just listening to a song. Biologically, your brain feels like you are sitting right there in the passenger seat of that car.
And from that chime, the song just seamlessly fades into a pulsing, atmospheric piano key.
Yeah.
And as it progresses, those low soprano vocals grow into what critics described as cathartic howls of pain.
Cathartic is the perfect word for it.
It really is. It builds to this massive swelling crescendo, peaking in a bridge that is famous for its layered vocals and that raw, frustrated line, "I still fucking love you." And, she was very open about her influences for this specific sound.
Yeah, she mentioned quite a few.
She did. You can hear Lord's album Melodrama in the slow build in the piano. You can hear Taylor Swift's Fearless in the highly detailed, specific storytelling. And she also cited Gracie Abrams' Minor EP as a major inspiration.
But, despite all that careful craftsmanship and clear musical lineage, the song is actually not technically perfect.
Right, the grammar.
Exactly. In an interview with Vogue, Rodrigo openly acknowledged that the song is full of grammatical errors. I mean, the title itself, Driver's License, is entirely missing the possessive apostrophe.
And the lyrics also feature a blatant double negative. She sings, "I've never felt this way for no one."
Which English teachers everywhere probably cringed at.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
But looking at the broader pop landscape, it makes me wonder if we should even call these flaws. I mean, if you are a 17-year-old writing in your bedroom, you aren't running your lyrics through a grammar checker.
No, definitely not.
You are just bleeding onto the page. I'd argue that these exact grammatical imperfections are precisely what made the song feel like a raw, authentic diary entry, rather than a focus-grouped plastic pop product.
It introduces a really interesting debate about modern songwriting. In the years since the song came out, you could argue that music executives have actually tried to intentionally manufacture grammatical errors or clunky phrasing in other artists' songs just to mimic this exact feeling of authenticity.
Wow, trying to fake the rawness.
Right. But in January 2021, Rodrigo wasn't copying a trend, she was setting the blueprint. She famously told a reporter that she wrote it while going through a heartbreak that was so multifaceted and confusing, and just sitting at her piano made it simpler.
And that intimate, diary-like nature of the lyrics is the foundation. But a good foundation doesn't automatically equal a skyscraper. To understand the explosive global reaction upon its release on January 8, 2021, we have to look at the environment it was released into.
Oh, totally.
Because the launch wasn't just a successful release, it was a detonation.
The records it broke are just staggering. Upon release, it reached #1 on international Spotify, Apple Music, and Amazon Music.
Just right out of the gate.
Right out of the gate. On Spotify, it broke the record for the most single-day streams for a non-holiday song, hitting over 15 million global streams on just its 4th day.
Wait, 15 million streams in one day? That's insane.
It gets crazier.
Yeah.
It broke the record for the fastest song in history to reach 100 million streams. In a single week, it racked up over 65 million streams on Spotify. It debuted at #1 on the US Billboard Hot 100, making Olivia Rodrigo the youngest artist ever to debut atop the chart, and it stayed there for 8 consecutive weeks.
And it wasn't just big in the US, right?
Globally, it was an absolute monster. It reached #1 in 25 different countries. In the UK, it broke the record for the highest single-day streams in British history for a non-Christmas song, a record previously held by Ed Sheeran's Shape of You.
Which begs the question, how does a debut single achieve this? The New York Times proposed a fascinating theory to explain it. They argued that driver's license benefited from an unbeatable feedback loop.
An unbeatable feedback loop, yeah.
I like to think of this feedback loop as throwing a match onto a massive bonfire. The song itself, The Rise of Bedroom Pop, that was the match. But the dry logs waiting to catch fire were a combination of TikTok and tabloid media.
Yeah, the TikTok ecosystem was the ultimate accelerant. The hashtag driver's license amassed a mind-bending 888.5 million views in a single week.
Nearly a billion views.
In a week, users were making videos dissecting the lyrics, crying to the bridge, and creating their own cinematic moments of themselves driving.
If you're listening right now and wondering why your social media feeds suddenly feel overwhelmed by a single trend for 3 weeks straight, well, this feedback loop is the exact blueprint of how it happens to you.
Right.
You had the TikTok trend, but then you had the tabloid journalism and the built-in Disney audience who were hyper-invested in the real-life drama. There was this rampant social media speculation about a love triangle involving Rodrigo's Disney co-star Joshua Bassett and another former Disney star, Sabrina Carpenter.
And then adding massive celebrity support into the mix with people like Taylor Swift publicly praising the song, that just completed the loop. So TikTok videos led to social media posts, which led to streams, which led to mainstream news articles, which fed right back into more TikTok videos.
It just feeds itself.
Exactly. It became a self-sustaining cultural engine.
But, stepping back from the statistics, that sounds incredibly overwhelming on a human level. You have a 17-year-old girl who just put her broken heart on the internet, and suddenly the entire tabloid machine is dissecting her personal life, actively trying to pit her against another woman in an alleged love triangle.
Yeah, it's a lot of pressure. But Rodrigo handled that intense public scrutiny with remarkable maturity. When reporters pressed her about the tabloid speculation, she pointed out how strange it was that people were being so definitive about situations they had zero actual knowledge of.
Right.
But more importantly, she explicitly rejected the narrative the media was trying to build. She stated, and I quote, "I don't really subscribe to hating other women because of boys. I think that's so stupid, and I really resent that narrative that was being tossed around."
Man, to have that level of clarity at that age, right in the middle of a media hurricane, is so impressive. But this is where the story pivots from just a viral moment into actual music history. Because once the gossip faded, the song didn't. It didn't become a trivia question. We have to look at how this track actually redefined the power ballad for Gen Z.
The cultural shift here is profound. I mean, think about the power ballads of previous decades, the 80s and 90s.
Yeah, the huge belters.
Exactly. They were bombastic, larger-than-life anthems featuring massive vocal gymnastics, artists like Celine Dion, Meatloaf, or Whitney Houston. You basically needed a wind machine and an orchestra.
Right, totally over the top.
Driver's License revolutionized that format. Music journalists noted that this was the epitome of new school pop songwriting. It took the concept of the power ballad and made it inward-facing, subdued, and entirely DIY.
It's the difference between shouting your feelings from a mountaintop for everyone to hear versus whispering a devastating secret in the dark.
Exactly.
And a major part of why that whisper felt so loud comes down to the linguistics of the song. A linguistic analysis from our sources revealed that a staggering 74% of the lyrics rely on personal pronouns.
Like I, you, we.
Yeah. And that heavy reliance on pronouns creates a deeply insular world. There is no broad philosophizing about love here. It is intensely, uncomfortably specific to her experience.
Which is so interesting because it's like she took a microscope and zoomed in on a single, incredibly specific cell of teenage heartbreak.
Yes.
But because she looks so closely at that one specific cell, millions of adults look through the lens and realize they possess that exact same cell of heartbreak within themselves. The hyperspecificity is actually what made it universal.
Oh, that's incredibly true. And that deeply personal approach is how Rodrigo managed to pull off one of the most notoriously perilous maneuvers in the entertainment industry, the Disney transition.
Right, the dreaded transition.
Historically, transitioning from the pristine Disney ecosystem to a mature adult audience takes years of concerted effort and, well, often significant controversy. You look at predecessors like Britney Spears, Justin Timberlake, Miley Cyrus.
Demi Lovato.
Exactly. They all had to actively rebel against their child star image. sometimes dismantling their public personas entirely, just to be taken seriously by adult listeners.
But Rodrigo just bypassed that entire rebellion phase. She simply released a song that was so well crafted and so emotionally resonant that it translated her specific teenage experiences to a broader adult audience instantly.
She didn't have to prove she was an adult. The emotional maturity of the songwriting proved it for her.
Yeah.
And that ability to immediately connect with an adult audience is exactly why this track survived the rapid-fire TikTok trend cycle. I mean, if it were just a teen gossip anthem, we wouldn't be talking about it 5 years later.
No, we wouldn't.
Because it is now July 1st, 2026. We are a full 5.5 years removed from the release of Driver's License. The TikTok trends have moved on, the tabloids have found new targets, but the song's footprint in modern media just continues to expand.
The endurance of the track is undeniable. I mean, it won the Grammy for Best Pop Solo Performance. In 2024, Rolling Stone placed it at number 377 on their updated list of the 500 greatest songs of all time.
Which is huge for a debut single.
Massive. It's also been immortalized in the Just Dance 2023 video game. It served as a massive emotional needle drop in the Amazon series, The Summer I Turned Pretty. And Rodrigo performed it just last year in January 2025 at the Fire Aid benefit in Los Angeles.
For me, though, the true measure of a pop song's structural integrity is how it holds up when other artists cover it. And the list of artists who have covered this teenage heartbreak anthem is just bizarre and wonderful.
It really highlights the song's remarkable versatility. In 2022, you had covers by the Scottish singer-songwriter Lewis Capaldi, and then a lush cinematic rendition by the jazz and pop crooner Michael Buble.
Michael Buble singing Driver's License.
Yeah. And then in 2024, the internet legend himself, Rick Astley, offered his take on it. And in 2025, Lea Michele gave it a massive theatrical Broadway-style makeover.
All of those are amazing in their own right. But none of them compare to the detail that absolutely blew my mind when we were reviewing the research for this deep dive.
Well, this is the best part.
On January 8th, 2026, so exactly 5 years to the day after Driver's License was released, a new cover hit streaming services. And it was by David Byrne, former frontman of the Talking Heads, the literal pioneer of new wave and post-punk.
And the arrangement of the David Byrne cover is an incredible musical artifact. He didn't just, sing over a piano. The cover was produced by Ray Swin, who also handled the recording arrangement and played acoustic guitar, bass, and violin. The instrumentation takes this suburban American narrative and places it into a global polyrhythmic context.
Right, the percussion alone is fascinating. They brought in Yuri Yamashita to play the caixa, which is a dry, sharp Brazilian snare drum, often used in samba music, along with cymbals and tambourine.
And you have Keely Pinheiro adding deep, resonant cello lines. They even use dual drummers, bringing in Stefan San Juan and Tim Kuiper.
The contrast is brilliant. You have a 70-something post-punk icon backed by a Brazilian drum ensemble singing the words of a 17-year-old girl mourning a lost suburban romance. And they pressed it on a physical 7-inch vinyl record.
Which is so cool, and the B-side of that vinyl is the perfect capstone to this entire story. It features a live recording from 2025, Olivia Rodrigo and David Byrne performing the Talking Heads' classic Burning Down the House Together.
That is just, I have to marvel at this trajectory. Think about the physical distance between the origin and this outcome. A song written by a crying teenager at her bedroom piano ends up being arranged for cellos and Brazilian percussion, sung by a rock legend half a century older than her.
It's incredible.
It cements the song's status. It wasn't a fleeting teen trend. It is an undeniable piece of classic American songwriting.
It proves that underneath the algorithmic perfect storm, underneath the tabloid intrigue and the brilliant marketing, there was a foundational structural integrity to the songwriting. A lesser song would have just collapsed under the weight of that much viral attention. Driver's License had the bones to support it.
It really did.
Yeah.
So, bringing it full circle back to that initial tension we talked about at the top of the show, Driver's License definitely benefited from an unbeatable feedback loop. It was the match thrown onto the dry logs of the internet at the exact right time.
Definitely.
But its staying power, the reason David Byrne is singing it half a decade later, comes down to the simple universal truth of the lyrics. It reminds us that sometimes the most complex, record-breaking global phenomena start with the simplest, most human feeling, a broken heart.
It really is a testament to the undeniable power of vulnerability.
It really is. And it leaves you with a provocative thought to chew on today. If a casual, unpolished piano snippet recorded in a teenager's bedroom can literally reshape the global music industry and become an all-time classic, how many other unpolished masterpieces are currently just sitting quietly in a teenager's voice memos app right now, waiting for their moment. Thanks for listening to PPLL Pod. Keep tuning in for more stories worth knowing.